All right, good morning, everyone. I am so excited and elated to be before you today. I was really nervous getting prepared for this, and so I was in my closet this morning practicing when someone busted in, a little 5-year-old, and asked what I was doing and why I was doing it. So I told her, Mommy's going to do a TED Talk today where I go in and talk about my favorite things. And she said, Well, Mommy, why are you practicing? And I said, Because really, I want to do a good job telling people about the wonderful work of turnaround. She said, But why do you practice? All you do is talk all the time. So, out of the mouths of babes, I have a 5-year-old, a 16-year-old, and an 18-year-old. And everything I do in schools is because of them. Because I know that any child that my school attends, I want it to be the best, to have the best, and to the best. So many times we get into situations or we get into schools and we think because of the zip code that kids are not able to be successful. But I am here to tell you today that there is a formula. I wrote the book on it, and the Cliff Notes are here for you today for free. So, what is the formula? I have never met a child in my life that did not want to graduate high school. Never. I've never heard a student say, Dr. Campbell-Rhone, I don't want to finish school. What I have, though, seen time and time again is schools full of children without the right resources to be successful in life. I have seen schools full of teachers that don't want to be there, resources not met, people that are not equal to the work of turnaround. And so my goal has and will always be in neighborhoods such as Sunnyside, Texas, and neighborhoods that mirror Sunnyside, Texas, all across the United States, is to give kids a level playing field to be successful. You are not determined by your zip code. So what's the formula? Many people have asked for the formula to be codified so that it can be replicated. Well, the formula is that you have to give students amazing human capital in the building. What does that look like? I'll give you an example. I was interviewing a gentleman and asked him if he would like to be a teacher at Worthing High School. He responded, of course, that he would. And at the end of the conversation, like any good interview goes, I asked him if he had any questions. And he said, Sure, I do. Does the mailman deliver in this area? Well, I too had just started there, and I had no idea if the mailman delivered in the area, but I wanted to know why he asked the question. Well, he asked the question because in dangerous neighborhoods, the mailmen don't deliver, according to this gentleman. I instantly knew that he was not the right candidate for the job. I knew that in 5 months I would end up firing him because he was either afraid of the kids, too scared to tell them that they can do anything and push them to get there. So what you have to do is make sure that the right people are in the building doing the right thing at the right time in the right way for our kids. So although we passed on that gentleman, there have been amazing people that I have brought with me from the other turnaround works that I have done into this last turnaround work of Worthing High School. There were so many naysayers that believed that it couldn't be done. And you have to be able to block out the noise and bring in the right people to do the work. It took a while. It took the entire summer. So I won't tell you that it was an easy feat. But once you know your kids and what they need, you also have that gut feeling of who to bring into the building in order to get them where they need to go. You have to have people that are willing to sacrifice, to be there late hours, to work smart and not hard, and to know that anything that any other child in any other zip code is capable of, these students are as well. We don't want them to give them mediocre lessons because they believe, oh, Bobby is on the second grade level, but he's in the ninth grade. So we want people that are going to stretch Bobby to get Bobby on a ninth grade level and not feel sorry for Bobby and therefore not educate him correctly. You have to have people in the building that care for and believe in the students that you service. You cannot have people that are halfway there half of the time. You have to have people that are there 100% of the time, mentally and physically. So you have to provide support for your teachers as well as for your students. And then you have to build a culture. Building a culture is probably the hardest part of the work because it stems from all the way left to all the way right. Building a culture is not just about doing fun things for kids. It's more so and begins with them coming to a building that is clean, them coming to a building that has nice books, them coming to a building where they know they're going to be fed for breakfast and for lunch, and if necessary for dinner as well. Having a culture, a really strong culture, means that you set expectations, those that are so high that you even shock yourself when you attain them. But it's what's good for kids. Having a good culture means that you provide them with experiences that they are not able to have otherwise. What you want to give kids is what they've never experienced before in their normal life. You want them to know that the sky is the limit, and you are there to provide them with a vessel to get them there. So what did we do? We took kids on college trips, where in one weekend they visited 6 to 7 colleges. We took them to San Francisco. Once they learned how to use the drones, we took them to the job where you would get paid to have that type of knowledge. These kids had their first plane rides. We got to see them cry getting on a plane because they had never had that experience before. Exposure is so key for students in low socioeconomic status areas as well as in turnaround areas. They are coming from a place of high crime, school to prison pipelines, poor schooling, and it's our job to ensure that we interject ourselves into their lives and become game changers for them. So when we talk about culture, we're not just talking about the cleanliness of the building, we're not just talking about the exposure, but we're talking about holding them to a level of accountability where they know that anything that we put before them, they are able to accomplish it. We didn't compete with the schools in our area that were in the same condition as we were. We competed with those who had $200,000 median home levels, whereas we had $14,000 median home levels. We didn't compete with those people that were in the same predicament that we were. We had been in IR for several years. We had not met state accountability in any of the areas of accountability for several years. We didn't compete with those that were close to our position. Instead, we competed with those that have had A's with the Texas Education Agency for the past few years. We wanted to know, what is it that they are doing? And we were going to mirror that in Sunnyside. So I say these things so that you know that it doesn't matter what area you're in. It matters what your vision is and what your commitment is. And that you know that in culture, there is no I. I can't create a culture by myself. I have to have teachers, custodians, secretaries, front office staff, the ladies who work in the cafeteria. Everybody has to buy into that vision if you are going to change a neighborhood. And I say this all the time. If you change a school, you can change an entire neighborhood. It's not just about what happens in those 4 walls. It's about what you instill in kids that they take outside of those 4 walls. Because 9215 was just a stopping place for our students. Majority of them, we had them for 4 years, but some for 3, some for 2. Some it was just, I need to be here for a semester. But what we instilled in them during that time is something that they can take and use for the rest of their lives. I now see my kids getting they're graduating or getting their master's degrees. I'm telling my age, but it's still important that you know these things because so much success can come out of what you pour into kids. And then the final thing, and the third most important thing for me, is having your teachers right where they need to be. Number one, just like you expect them to pour into kids every single day, you have to pour into them. And not just emotionally, which that is a huge part of it for both teachers and for students, but academically. You can't expect teachers to know exactly what students are supposed to learn unless you give the teachers the opportunity to learn what it is that the kids are supposed to know. So let me give you an example. There are standards in the state of Texas. Each grade level has standards. Teachers have to be able to unpack those standards to know what is good for this 9th grader, this 10th grader, this 11th grader, actually from kindergarten on up. Who teaches teachers how to do that? That's the leadership team's job, to be able to allow teachers to read the standard, unpack them, align the assessment, align the assignment so the kids are successful. And then in between there, they have to learn how to scaffold so that if Bobby is on a second grade level when he gets to you at the ninth grade, how are you going to close that gap most efficiently? How are you going to help them to get better faster? So all of those components come together and you have success because you have, one, supported the student, two, supported the teacher, and three, created a culture and environment where success is the only thing that is acceptable. I have said and I will always say that kids are not the issue. It's the adults that are in front of the kids every single day. We have to know how much power we hold to change the lives of kids. I've never met a person who didn't have that one particular teacher that they can look back on and say, this person changed my life. But what I want to produce is children who can look back on an entire village, an entire school, and say, you know what? From the principal on down, they supported me and they got me where I needed to be. I still have kids today that text me and say, Dr. Campbell, I'm doing this. Dr. Rhone, I'm doing this. And I am so elated and excited that I went from having 3 kids to have 900 kids. And all of them knew and understood that it wasn't just me that wanted them to be successful. It was everybody in the building. The community was rooting for us. Not in the beginning because they didn't think it was possible for us to make that change so quickly. But as soon as they saw that we were all in 100% and that we weren't going to let any of our kids slip through the cracks and that we had a vision and we wanted that vision to come to fruition by any means possible, they were on board with us. And that is how we changed around Sunnyside, the schools, and the community. Thank you.